Hey, what's on, guys? So welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. So in this review, I'm not going to be talking about things that I liked or didn't like. I'm just going to be talking about pretty much the whole rundown of the movie from beginning to end. Everything that happens, which Justice League members make a cameo, and which characters die or supposedly come back and things like that. So the movie starts off by showing us Bruce Wayne's parents' murder, and it transitions between two scenes. The first is when Joe kills his parents, and another one is Bruce as a child at his parents' funeral, and he starts running away from the funeral, and he falls into the Bat Cave. When he lands in the cave, he sees the bats for the first time, and they start to just like fly all around him, and he's scared. But then, like, after a little bit, they float him up. They start lifting him up off the ground, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, but they literally carry him from the bottom of the hole all the way to the top. And then after that, you hear adult Bruce Wayne's voice in the background, and then they introduce us to Superman. It's the day that he's fighting General Zod. So you see Bruce Wayne just driving up into Metropolis, and you see him and Zod fighting, and they're just destroying all these buildings. And it's just one of the buildings that they're fighting near is a Wayne Enterprise building. So Bruce calls he calls one of the guys in the building and tells to tell everybody to evacuate. It's not safe. And those people start getting out of the building, but then General Zod and Superman, they crash into the Wayne building. Everybody's just running away from the falling building and all the debris that's just like coming their way, and Bruce just runs into the debris because he's trying to save people. And he comes across this one guy. He works for Wayne, and he fell and he's trapped under this beam support that was in the building, and he can't move his legs. So Bruce and a bunch of other people lift the beam up off of him, and they pull him out from under the beam. He can't feel his legs. His legs are totally paralyzed. And you want to pay attention in that part, because that is a crucial part to how Superman plays out in court. You'll see a big reveal. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And they cut to the present, and Lois is in some kind of African desert interviewing some terrorist leader. And she's with her photographer, and one of the guys in I guess he's with the terrorist group. He destroys the photographer's camera, and he finds out that they were being tracked. That these guys, that he's CIA, that they're working undercover. Lois did not know that prior to going into Africa, so immediately the photographer is killed, and so are some other people that are just around, and Lois gets taken hostage by the main terrorist leader that she was interviewing, and he's pretty much threatening her like you sent these guys after us, and you were being tracked and you didn't know and stuff. And Superman shows up. And this is the scene where it becomes really controversial, because he saves Lois, but the guy that's holding her hostage, he takes him and he pummels him through the wall that's behind them. He just goes straight through the wall. So pretty much he just killed the guy, because at that speed and that much force and pressure, there's no way that guy could survive. So Superman just pretty much that's his first kill in this movie right there. So that might throw off a lot of people. Then we cut to Gotham, and there's this thing going on where it's called a Bat brand. You see, that's what Bruce Wayne's referred to in this movie as the Bat brand, because what he does, he takes pretty much a certain type of criminals, like human trafficking people or rapists or murderers. He takes them and he puts a bat. He stamps a bat symbol on their body, indicating that, yeah, I was here. So there's this one part where this guy's getting branded because he's running a human trafficking ring, and there's like the cops walk into that building, and you see these like prisoners in like a cage. That's the human trafficking people, and they're pretty much just like trying to. They can't speak English, so they're like pointing up and pretty much saying like, he's still here. The devil saved us. So the cops don't understand what they're talking about. So they go up and see that like the human trafficking guy who's like in charge of everything. You see him just like pinned against the wall. And he's got like the bat brand on his like on his shoulder or collarbone. And then you see like and then the cop like turns around slowly. You see Batman just like up on the wall, and he jumps down, and the cop just starts like just going ham with the shotgun. He's just shooting in all directions, and he almost kills his teammate. And pretty much then it cuts to like a newsreel, and they're talking about Batman. I heard her saying like the Batman brand is basically a death sentence prison. It's only given to rapists, child molesters, human traffickers, and etc. And after that, the news also talks about Superman's actions in Africa. How they're saying that Superman is pretty much the reason for all the casualties in Africa that happened. And then they cut to this other scene where you see Lois just like in the tub just bathing, and Clark walks in with flowers. And they pretty much talk about how it's hard for them to be together because his life is Clark Kent and his life is Superman. So, and they talk about that, and then they just do it in the bathtub. And there's a part after that where you see Bruce and Alfred just like talking. Along with that, there's you go back to the Daily Planet, and Clark is given a piece. He has to write about some like sports, some football like page, and Clark doesn't want to do it. You know, he wants to talk about how the Batman's a vigilante and how he needs to be brought to justice and stuff. And then they cut to the scene where it's on a beach, and there's like a crashed like spacecraft or spaceship, and there are these like guys. They're like go underwater, and they see like this like rock looking thing. When I first saw this, I thought it was like some reference to Aquaman or like Atlantis, but they pull it out of the ocean and they crack it open, and it's actually kryptonite inside that rock. And then after that, they cut to a scene with Lex playing in the basketball court, and then he starts talking to the senator and some government officials, and how they're talking about how they finally found kryptonite, and it can break down cells that belong to General Zod or pretty much any Kryptonian. And Lex wants more, but the senator says he wants a huge shipment from Africa, but the United States, he wants to get it without dealing with customs. He wants to create a deterrent event that Superman and other Kryptonians should attack. He's pretty much talking to one of the government officials about how he needs General Zod's body and the Kryptonian ship, so he can create more kryptonite or something like that. I don't remember exactly what happened there. And then you cut to Bruce, and he's investigating the same terrorist group that Lois was kidnapped by or taken hostage by, and he sees that there's a connection between the terrorists in Africa and that trace back to Lex Luthor. So Bruce is planning to break into Lex's mansion, and then Alfred tells him like, you can't. You tried getting information as Batman from 6 different hostages, but you didn't get any information. You went in as Bruce Wayne and you got some information. So he's saying it's more beneficial to go in as Bruce Wayne. And he's like, but how would I get into the party? And then Alfred's like, well, you were actually invited to this party. And he hands him the flyer, and they cut to the party, and Bruce shows up. Bruce and Clark and a bunch of other people in like this main general area. You see Lex giving a speech. Then after the speech, Lex and Bruce meet briefly, and they're pretty much just like, he's like, what are your thoughts on the Bat Vigilante? And then Bruce tells him, I forget what he said. And then Clark says something, and then Bruce says like, don't believe everything you hear, son. You can tell they're on opposite sides of this. And then Lex Luthor shows up, and that's just me you get from the trailer where he's like, I love bringing people together, and he's like, Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne. They just have like a little brief moment, and then Bruce goes off to get information from Lex's mansion. So he sneaks into goes down a couple floors, and then he attaches his hacking device into the building's mainframe. And then Clark can hear this happening because of his super hearing, so he can hear what Alfred is saying into his headset, and Alfred's pretty much giving him instructions to where to go in the building and where to attach the hacking device. And then right after Bruce attaches the hacking device, some girl shows up, and she's pretty much just asking like, "What are you doing down here?" And he's just like, "Oh, I thought the bathroom was down here." And pretty much just stalls, and then she leaves. And Bruce tries to retrieve the hacking device. There's one more scene in between. I just can't remember what it was. But then Bruce goes back down to where he had the hacking device, and he finds out that Diana stole it. So he gets it back a few nights later at the museum. He tracks her down, and he sees her looking at this sword. If I'm correct, it's the same sword she uses, or like a version of it. Like the one that's in the display is like a replica of the original sword. So they're talking about the sword, and then he knows she took it, and she tells him like it'll be in the glove compartment of your car. I just needed some information. I've returned it to you. So then Bruce goes back to his Batcave, and he opens up the file. He decrypts everything, and there's like there's a nightmare sequence right there. It's almost entirely like what's shown in the trailer, where like it's pretty much like talking about Apocalypse and how all the Justice Leaguers have been killed off except for Flash and Batman, and they pretty much are the only ones left to save the world, and everyone else has been killed by Superman and Darkseid, I think. And after, like in the nightmare, he's fighting these guys that have like a Superman logo on their shoulder or whatever. And after he pretty much gets beat up. There's just so many guys coming at him, so he gets taken down. And then you see him tied up into like some like torture chamber, I guess. And then Superman comes in, and all the guards is like kneel, indicating that Superman's like the leader of these men. And Superman comes up to Batman, and he pulls his mask off. He sees that he's Bruce Wayne, and then he pretty much says like, you let her die, you let the love of my life die. I have nothing. And then he pretty much just like slams like Bruce's chest, and you hear him scream, and it cuts out of the dream. And then you get like this, like, it's not another nightmare sequence. It's a I'm not really sure how to describe it. But you see Flash come up in like a portal, and you see him like he's in his Speed Force, and he's pretty much telling Bruce about the future, how it's like Lois Lane is important. She's the key. And Flash really doesn't look that cool in this little like snippet that we saw. His costume looks nothing like Barry Allen's. So I'm hoping that's not like a final version. I'm hoping that's just like a piece of it. So Lex started shipping kryptonite from Africa, and Bruce wants to get a hold of that. So they go to the docks, and there's this big chase scene. This is what I mentioned in my review, where there's this giant truck full of kryptonite, and then you see Batman just come out with his Batmobile from from inside one of the warehouses. And there's this big chase scene. The guys have like miniguns on the cars that's driving, and then they got a bunch of guys with guns. They're all just shooting at the Batmobile, and it's not doing anything. And Batman just like pulls out like some like he has some kind of like rockets or flares, and he's pretty much just like destroying those guys. Like his Batmobile's pretty much invincible. And then after that he's chasing those guys, and then like after a while they just disappear, and you see Clark just like standing there, and then like he just shows up, and Bruce like tries to like stop. He stops him, and he just kind of crashes into Clark, and then he's just like his Batman just like swirls out of place, and he just crashes. And then Clark walks up on top of his car, just rips the hood off, and it's pretty much just like the Bat is dead. Next time they light that signal in the sky, don't answer it, the Bat is dead. And then Bruce was like, do you bleed? And then Superman just flies away, and he's like, you will. And then they go over to, so there's this, I don't remember exactly when this happened, but there's this one part where the guy who got his legs paralyzed from the Superman and Zod fight, you see him in front of like the Superman monument, and he climbs up to it, and then he pretty much writes false god in red paint, or red spray paint, onto the statue, and it's being broadcasted and everything, and he pretty much wants revenge on Superman. So he goes to jail, he gets arrested for that, and then Lex bails him out. He pretty much like gets him ready to go to court, because everybody wants Superman in court to like pay for his crimes and stuff. No one believes that he can be above the government. Lex wants him to testify against Superman, and then you see Bruce gets these like checks or severance pay, and each one of those he's sending it back, and each of the notes it says things like, "You let your family die," or he just has all these like death threats on them in like giant red letters. And then for the hearing, gives Scoot some new high-tech chair, and Superman agrees to come to the hearing. And then Lex and the senator are just like talking, and he's pretty much threatens the senator because she denied him permission to use kryptonite as an assassination tool. And there's this one scene, I forget what Lex says, but it's just like, I forget what it was, but it's like in the court, like after Superman shows up, she's talking to him, and then she sees like Lex said like it was he said this line. It was like you piss in like a bottle of like wine or something. I don't remember exactly, but you see like literally what he said. You see that bottle on the senator's desk, and she knows she's being threatened. She's being threatened because you can see like Lex was the only person who wasn't in the courtroom when Superman was there. Right after that, the guy in the wheelchair, his wheelchair explodes. There's like a bomb in it, and it just takes out the entire building. By the way, this whole hearing's taking place in the U.S. Capitol. So Clark is like super upset about this because he didn't see this coming. So he just flees, and he goes into the mountains, whereas he's like his dad. It's like a dream sequence of like his dad pretty much just like telling him that there's consequences for your actions, and that your actions have to be good. And he pretty much like listens to what he says. He tells him the story about how their farm almost got flooded. They were up all night trying to like fill it with dirt so they wouldn't flood their house. Their horses almost drowned. So, and Lex returns to LexCorp to discover that his kryptonite's been taken. It's been robbed. And in the glass case where the kryptonite was, there's a battering. It's like that Batman's battering. It's just there. It's just indicating that Batman stole it. And you get a quick training montage of Batman. It's like with Ben Affleck just like getting ready to take on Superman. He just like the amount of weight he lifts is just crazy. So like I mean I know he put on like all that muscle, but it's insane, like the amount of weight he lifts. So then next after his like workout, Batman starts developing, or during his workout, it's like it goes back and forth. He's starts working on some like kryptonite spear looking thing that's gonna play a huge role around the end of the movie. And then there's this part where we cut back to Lois, and she's investigating the bullets that were from the shooting in Africa, and she found out that those bullets were actually made by LexCorp, and they were made to attract Superman's attention. So he pretty much plant the seed, and it's accuse Superman of killing people in Africa. So then they go over back to Bruce, and he's investigating the hard drive that was decrypted and by Lex, that he got from Lex's mansion. And there's this like file called Metahumans. He clicks on it, and there's like 4 files. This is where you get your look at the Justice League. They got had Wonder Woman first, then Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. So he goes to Wonder Woman folder first, and he sees this picture of like Wonder Woman and like I guess it's like one of the world wars. I think it's World War I or World War II. I think it's before the World War. It's like I think it's before the 1920s. And you see a picture of her in like the Wonder Woman costume along with like some other guys there, and he's pretty much just like trying to figure out who this person is. And then he clicks on the one for Flash, and you see this is the part that I really didn't like, is what the Flash like little snippet. You see Barry Allen, and he's not in like his costume, he's just in like normal street clothes, and he's like buying milk from some like gas station, I guess. And there's some guy pulls out a gun, tries to rob the cashier, and Barry shows up, and you see like the blur, and you see that like guy like trying to rob just disappear. This is the part I didn't like, is first off, the guy that looked like that was supposed to be Barry Allen in that he looked nothing like Barry Allen. He doesn't look anything like Barry Allen from the comics. He doesn't look like Barry Allen from the Flash from Grant Gustin's version. He has like long black hair, and I was just like, it doesn't look right. I really hope that they kind of just like put that in there because they don't have enough time or something. I really hope he does not look like that in like his actual movie. That would just piss me off so much. And then the next folder to go to is the Aquaman folder, and you see like this shipwreck, and you see pretty much Aquaman in the shipwreck, and you see like his eyes glowing, and he's got like the trident, like fork looking thing. And you see him like fly up to like this camera, and he like stabs the camera with his pitchfork. That part was really cool. You know, that just seeing that really got me excited for the new Aquaman movie. Just Jason Momoa looks so good in that. You know, the way he's just like swimming towards it. Just the way he looks, it's just so badass. And the next one, which is one of my favorites again, is the Cyborg one. You see Victor Stone just like pinned up against like this. I guess it's like not a surgical table, but like a surgical like wall kind of thing. And you see him just like on the wall, and you don't see his whole body, but you see him, and then you see Silas Stone. He's like recording it. It's like a practice session, and he's got like this like some kind of cube next to him that's like moving around in like little parts and pieces, which is what's like he's using to experiment on Victor to create his limbs back. And then you see the cube start working. You know, they're talking about how there's been so many failures from all the trials he's done, and then this one starts to work. You see like his arms and his legs start to like grow back in robotic form. I thought that part was really cool. And then after that, you cut over back to Lex, and you see him in the Kryptonian airship, and he takes Zod's fingerprints to get into the Kryptonian ship. And pretty much how he got his fingerprints is he sliced them off from the kryptonite. He has Zod's dead body, and he goes into the ship, and he's talking to this like computer, pretty much how he's going against Kryptonian like laws and politics, and he submerges Zod into the water that's like inside the ship, and he cuts his hand and pours his blood over onto Zod's face and submerges the rest of his body into the water. And then the Kryptonian ship starts like putting Zod into a chrysalis, and they're pretty much creating doomsday from this. And then after this, they cut over to Martha Kent, which is Superman's mom, and she's just working at some like diner, I guess. And then she just walks out, and she gets taken by Lex Luthor's men, and then so does Lois. And then this is the part that's kind of weird. I mean, it was cool and all, but I feel like this is the part where I missed something, but I don't. They just cut to it so abruptly. Is you see Bruce standing in his Batman armored suit, and he starts to bat signal, trying to get Superman's attention. And then you see Lex all the way on the other side of the city, and he's like the Batman signal in the sky. The part that really threw me off was how it just cut to Batman in his just in the armor. You know, I was really hoping we'd see like him put on his armor, like in Batman Arkham Knight when he gets the new armor for the first time. You see like the whole like badass like transformation, how everything just like falls into place, and the chest piece adjusts, and the shoulder pads and everything. I thought we'd get something like that, but it just cuts to it, which was kind of disappointing. And then there's the helicopter that lands down. It has Lois in it, and Lex pretty much grabs Lois and brings her over to the building, and he's talking to her about how she's like important to Superman. And then they're just, I forget what they were talking about apart from that. But then he pretty much throws Lois off of the building. Superman saves her, and he just flies her off into some safe area and sets her on the road. When he flies back up to Lex's building, Lex is pretty much telling Superman that he has his mother, and if he doesn't fight, pretty much says that if he doesn't fight Batman and bring him his head, that he's gonna kill Martha. So that's the part that's what gets Batman and Superman to fight, is that Lex is playing both of them. He wants his kryptonite back, and he wants Superman to kill Batman. He's using Superman to get to Batman. Lex is pretty much trying to prove that that he's above God, you know, that he can break Superman. And he starts showing him these pictures of his mom, of Superman's mom, and she's tied up in this room, and it has like the word witch written on her head, and it's a bunch of like images that he starts throwing at him. And then you see Superman fly over to where Batman is, and then they have their fight, and this part is just this is probably the best part of the movie, is Batman and Superman just going at it, and then start fighting, and they have just a complete beatdown, and the Batman at one point pulls out this gun and he shoots that, not a bullet but like a dart or something. He shoots it at Superman, and then there's like a bunch of like powder explodes all over Superman. So I'm guessing it's like kryptonite powder or something, and he just like Superman just like gets like weak, and Bruce starts like beating the shit out of him. He says something along the lines of like, "You aren't a man, men have fear," or something like that, and then they pretty much continue fighting, and Superman slowly gets his strength back, and he flies. They both fly towards each other, and I forget like what happens, but I think like Superman like punches or like kicks him in the face and like cracks his armor, like the mask part, and then they continue fighting, and Batman's getting the upper hand in this fight, and this is where he gets the spear, the kryptonite spear, and right when he's about to like stab Superman with it, Superman's just like, they have Martha, and Bruce Wayne he's just shocked. You know, he's like, how do you know that name? How do you know who this is? How do you know that name? And then he's like, this is my mother's name. And Bruce kind of just like freaks out. He kind of just like stands there. She's quiet. He's like, holy shit. That's when Lois shows up, and she's pretty much saying, I'm like, yeah, that Martha is Clark's, like that's her name. That's his mom's name. And then they cut over to just like a flashback of Bruce's parents dying, and how you hear Bruce's dad, he just whispers his mom's name. He says Martha. And they kind of just like, that's pretty much it. That's the end of that fight. You know, Clark pretty much just gets up, and then Bruce is just like, pretty much explains that they've been played by Lex, and then they join forces. They put the spear aside, and then Superman goes after Lex, and then Batman goes after Martha to save Superman's mom. And then this is the part where we get from the trailer. You see Batman takes the Batwing and goes to the docks, and you see Lex's goons holding Martha. Here is where this is again a really controversial part in the movie, because you see Batman, and in his in the Batwing there's parts where he's like shooting at, I think he's shooting at cars, and he was blowing up the people in the cars. So in this one, Batman is killing people, and Batman's kill count is a lot higher than Superman. Superman's only had like 1 or 2 kill counts in this movie. The Batman's had maybe like 10 already. Then after that, he lands his Batwing in front of the building. He smashes through the window. He's on the floor below the guards, and he shoots like his grappling hook from under the floor. Pulls the guy out, and I think he like throws him or something. And then that's when the fight begins against the guards and Batman. And there's parts where he like grabs their guns and he starts like shooting all these other guys. So yeah, Batman's killed a lot of people in this movie. Now I'm not entirely upset about that. I'm not like against it, because this version of the Batman, I get he's killed people. You know, he's getting old, and he's can't do this forever. So he's killing people now. I mean, I know some people are gonna be against that, but for me, I'm not entirely against it. I think he could have killed less people. That's pretty much what I'm saying. And then he's taking out all these other guys, and there's one guy who's like has a grenade. And Batman pretty much just like knocks it out of his hand and knocks the other 2 guys over. The guy's already pulled the pin, so then those 2 guys are trying to stop the grenade, and then they explode, so they died. And just seeing the way Batman fight, it's just awesome, you know. It's like taken straight from the Arkham games, and he's just beating the shit out of all of those guys. And then there's this one scene where they took it straight from Frank Miller's comic, where there's like guards in the room where Martha's being held. Like you see Batman just like smash through the wall. He grabs one of the guys, and he like locks him, like puts him like, he starts choking the guy. He takes his gun, he like points it at the guy who has like the gun to Martha's head, and he's just like, don't do it. I think what he does, I think Batman like shoots the guy, because the guy who's holding Martha hostage has like a not a flamethrower, but like a flamethrower kind of attachment to his gun. So Batman shoots that. There's like a little flame like coming out. He shoots the flame, and he throws the guy to the side, and he grabs Martha and just jump out of the window of the building, and they just like laying on the floor. This part was kind of funny. He pretty much explains to Martha, he's like, oh, I'm a friend of your son's. He's like, and she's like, Yeah, I thought so. You know, the cape and mask and stuff. So I thought that part was pretty funny. The movie doesn't have a whole lot of comedy. I mean, it does have some scenes, but it's not like Avengers type comedy. And then they cut it back to Clark. You see him in Lex's lab, and you see him like you see like Doomsday and like some like chrysalis thing, and they've created Doomsday, and he's like rips out of the chrysalis, and then he takes Superman, and then they fly out of the building, and he's just like beating the shit out of Superman. And this is like the part I did not like, is where like Doomsday, like the way he looks in this movie, he has like 2 or 3 stages of transformations. The first one looks really shitty. You know, he just looks like pretty much like the Abomination from the Hulk, the 2010 Hulk movie. You take that, you make him like gray, completely gray, and you take the spikes or bones or whatever, and you just minimize him. And that's pretty much what Doomsday's first form looks like. And he's pretty much just like fighting Superman. It's just crazy. I don't remember exactly what happens next, but then they cut over to Superman and Batman both come into like they land in the same area. And Superman tells him, Superman tells him that there's a way to take out Doomsday. He's gonna need the kryptonite spear. Batman pretty much is like, I'm gonna go get it, and pretty much. This is when Doomsday gets his second transformation, because the more he gets hit, the stronger he gets. So he goes into a second transformation. He grows more like bones or like spikes or whatever in his body, but they're still not like big enough. He still doesn't look anything like Doomsday from the comics, which kind of really threw me off, made me kind of upset. And then Doomsday he shoots like laser beams from his eyes, and right before it's about to hit, you see Wonder Woman just like come down, and she just blocks it with her shield. And Superman's like, "She with you?" And Batman's like, "I thought she was with you." That view of all 3 of them, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, just on the screen, it just looks super badass. And in the fight against Doomsday is mostly between Wonder Woman and Superman. Batman's pretty much there as a distraction, and along with that, you know, Lois is trying to retrieve the spear, and it's underwater where Batman and Superman are fighting. That place gets like crushed down, and Lois is underwater, and she's trying to go for a spear, but I guess she's running out of oxygen. She almost drowns. While Superman is fighting Doomsday, right before he's about to land some more hits on Doomsday, he uses his super hearing, and he hears like Lois like drowning and like some like her beating against like the wall trying to get free. So he goes underwater. He saves Lois. He gets her out, and he dives back in the water and gets the kryptonite spear. Superman almost drowns because kryptonite. He's getting the spear out, but he's too weak, so he gets out, but he's like weakened. And then you see Wonder Woman just like fighting Doomsday. She cuts off his hand, and he grows back. It regenerates back, and they just keep fighting. And then Batman's just like there as a distraction again. And Superman tells Lois that he loves her, and that she is his world. That's all he thinks about. He grabs his spear, and he flies towards Doomsday. He impales Doomsday with the kryptonite spear. And while doing that, Doomsday impales Superman through the heart, which pretty much kills him on the spot, because the kryptonite's in his hand, and he's being impaled. So he's like on a human level, and he just got killed right there. He just impales him right through the heart. But the spear does affect Doomsday. I think he like implodes from the inside. Yeah, special effects look pretty cool on this part, but he turns green for a second, and he just drops. You see his body just drop, and then you see Superman on the floor. He's got the hole in his heart. While everybody just like walks up and like mourns his death. He's just on the floor, and then they cut over to the procession, the funeral for Superman, and they have this like whole memorial, and they have all these like there's a bunch of people there, and then they have Bruce and Diana also there. They're pretty much talking about the future and how Bruce feels that they need to get all the other metahumans together, and Wonder Woman's like, it's not a good idea. And Bruce was like, I have a feeling that we're gonna need these people. And he talks about how he failed Superman. And then there's another scene right after that, where you see Lex being admitted into some high facility prison. I don't know if it's like Bel Rev or just some like random prison, but he's there, and you see him like finally shaving his hair off, so he becomes bald, and then you see him, the guards tell him to put his head against the wall and to put his hands behind his back, and then there's like a flicker in the light, and the lights turn off and they turn back on, and the guards are gone, and you see Batman just there. And he's got like his bat branding thing, and he goes up to Soups. He goes up to Lex. I forget what he says, but he doesn't brand Lex. He like slams the stamp thing into like the wall next to Lex. Then he just disappears, and Lex starts like screaming something. I forget what he says. Starts screaming some stuff at like Batman, but Batman's not even there. And oh yeah, he does say, like, Lex reveals that the kryptonite ship that he sends out a signal, and that there's more big bads coming. He rang a bell, is pretty much what he says. And the final shot in the movie is at the graveyard where Superman's buried, and you hear like a faint like drumming sound, and then you hear like a heartbeat. You hear a heartbeat a second time, and then they zoom in on Superman's casket. You keep hearing the heartbeat, and then there's like, you see Lois putting like ashes or soil onto like his casket, and then right in that split second, right before the movie ends, you see like the ashes float up just for a split second off his casket. He's alive. He's not dead. And then that's it. That the movie ends. There is no post-credit scene. I stayed all the way till the end. There wasn't anything. That's all I've got for you guys. That is the entire Batman v Superman movie plot. The entire movie, beginning to end. I think I covered pretty much all the important and not so important parts of the movie. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to check out my spoiler-free review as well, I'll be putting a link down in the description below for that, so you can check that out. But if you enjoyed the video, then smack the like button. It's just always appreciated. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button to see more content like this. See you guys next time.